Hi, my name is Michael Bean, and this is your class for myfreeactingclass.com. This spring season, 2023, we have 6 students who have committed to submit self-tapes every week so that you can track them and we can follow them as they take the notes and integrate it. I'm going to be workshopping with them live as we go. And then rather than me starting with like, here's what I think good acting is, and we're going to talk about my ideas a bunch. Instead, my hope is that patterns emerge from the tapes and you get to witness it by watching these folks be vulnerable. And so props to our 6 spring session students who are doing the scary thing and sharing their work, even though it is imperfect, for anybody who wants to watch it to watch. And I think that that's excellent practice for what a film and TV actor wants to do for themselves, which is to get practice being imperfect, putting it out in the world, saying, yeah, this is me. And I've said this before in class, but I think that it's worth coming back to and back to and back to, that on camera, ease reads as confidence. And there's a lot of talk about the idea of confidence. I do think confidence is genuinely important in terms of helping you book work in film and television. Everybody in the whole food chain, everybody, sort of from the actors up, the decision makers, they're all uncertain, right? The casting directors are not sure if they chose the right actors to come in for the auditions. The producers are not sure who of those best choices are the ones that they should cast in their movie because they're not sure if they're going to make their money back. Some of them aren't even sure if they chose the right script to pour their money or their company's money into. And so an actor who can show up and say, you know what, I got this, like I can hold this uncertainty. I've got something interesting to offer. Here it is. That's really important when every person in the decision-making chain is uncertain, is worried about how it's going to go. If as an actor you show up and you don't have enough practice with that uncertainty, and so you show up either explicitly or implicitly with this sense of like, I'm not sure, can you please reassure me? I'm not sure, is this okay? And if that's even going on, the energetically between you and the other person, even if that's not what you say out loud, you say, hi, I'm holding my breath and I've got some of that inside of me. Well, then what happens is that triggers the fear in each of those decision makers because they're not sure either. And so get your friends to reassure you, get your mom to reassure you after your audition, have a support system in place for yourself. Know that uncertainty is an important, necessary part of the process that you are always going to feel, and part of your job is to get used to that. And then go in and be a professional even when you're doing a self-tape, and hold that uncertainty inside you until after it's over, and then go looking for support for it in the same way that you might in any other professional environment. And this is a weird professional environment because you're also expected to be vulnerable and exposed and to show up as yourself. But when you can do that, it's the equivalent of socially when you meet somebody who can, with a sense of ease, or at least with a certain amount of clarity, say to you, look you in the eye and say, yeah, man, I'm super nervous right now. Yeah, like I'm really freaking out. Yeah, and when somebody can say that and then goes and does whatever it is they're doing anyway, our experience watching is, wow, that person is really confident. Like that person really, like, they know themselves, they trust themselves, right? But if somebody's like, I'm freaking out and I want you to take care of me and I'm gonna fall apart so you can take care of me, well, then of course we're like, whoa, yeah, that's not what confidence looks like. Right? But somebody, and somebody who shows up with the kind of fragility that ignores those feelings. Somebody's like, no, I'm fine. Even though I'm doing totally something uncertain and kind of terrifying, you can see it in my body that like, there's some tension here. I'm amazing. Of course, even if we can't see through that, there's a brittleness to it that doesn't read in the same way. Yeah, so I'm not suggesting that you walk into every audition and tell them how nervous you are. I'm just using this as evidence that socially, other people's vulnerability seems brave and awesome to us, almost always. Wow, Christina, man, you were so vulnerable. That's so brave. Our own vulnerability almost always feels shameful and wrong and like it must be hidden from the world. And this is just an existential reality of being human that actors come very pointedly in contact with. And this is not something that is true just for actors. I think this is true generally for most people. Other people's vulnerability, brave, awesome. Our own vulnerability, horrifying and to be hidden from everyone. You know, isn't that crazy? And so as actors, you get to explore that. You get to go, oh, wow, wait a second. Maybe this could be true for me too. And even if I can't hold that, even if in my body it still feels like this, if I can have this story of like, oh yeah, that's what it feels like to do something scary, then I move closer to that orientation to my own acting, like anybody who does something adrenalizing, like anybody who does downhill mountain biking or jumps out of airplanes or goes on roller coaster rides, where it's like, oh yeah, I did something scary on purpose because I like that feeling and I know I'm not going to die. My story about it is that like this is an exciting thing to terrify myself on purpose, to be vulnerable in this really intense way on purpose, to tolerate that level of uncertainty on purpose. And then I get to come back to myself. So let's take a look at Alex's tape because we didn't get to Alex last week. Let me quickly talk about camera technique. I'll use me and then I'll use Alex and then we'll look at each person. So I have a light in my eyes as an eye light. Without it, I'm gonna look dead inside. Well, we can give you a little flash of Duke right now because he's not set up yet, but it'll give me a great excuse to be like, look, dead inside. It's not Duke. Duke is a person, lots of good inside, but right now, because he has no light reflecting in his eyes, he totally looks like a zombie, like, ah. The light in your eyes makes a huge difference. Lighting, probably the most important part of your setup, that and having a blank background or as close as possible to a blank background, because sometimes you're going to be in a wall in a hotel room or a friend's house and you're going to be like, well, if there's a door frame or a little bit of wallpaper in the background, just know that your eye's going to go there. And I did this example last time, but if I do even that, if I even do one little corner, then your eyes are going to go, huh, oh, red carpet, hey, oh, look at it. And your eyes are going to keep going over there. You're in approximately the middle of the frame. This is a medium close-up, so we're seeing top of your head down to, somewhere between, like kind of armpit, to, like bottom of your rib cage. We don't need to see more of that unless you're doing a commercial audition that involves movement where seeing your body is going to be important, but otherwise don't need to see that. And so here is Alex's setup. Ta-da! You can see he's got a fantastic eye light, so he's clearly got a light directly behind the camera. He's right in the middle of the frame. He doesn't have too much space above his head. We're seeing that medium close-up. Right, he's been paying attention the last couple of years. Alex is our longest running. Well, Alex and Christina, to think here in this group for the longest running free acting class students, and which is why it's so much fun to showcase them. I'm going to show you Alex's tape and talk about that a little bit. He said that he wanted to work on being curious. So Alex chose a script from the show Good Will Hunting. Now, this is a fantastic example because students are always like, where do I find scripts? Oh, God. And I want to let you know that that is just an expression of that same uncertainty that shows up everywhere as soon as you start doing something creative. It's the same thing that I assume that painters, or people drawing feel when they are confronted with a blank page, where they're like, oh God, it's literally blank. I could do absolutely anything. And it's going to put you in contact with the sense there might be something right to do. So there are a million scripts online. And honestly, when students are like, where do I find scripts? I'm like, let's talk about Google. It is a search engine. And if you enter that question there, you will get 100 answers that are better than you asking me. Uh, the Now, what they're really saying is there a best one? Is there a best place? What do you think? Is there a best one? I don't know. When I got these questions, and decided to be nice about it, in the free acting class last year, I literally just Googled it, looked at the first, 10 things that came up and was like, here are the 4 that I think are the best from my Google search. So everybody chill out. You can just Google search this. It's fine. I've got an archive of scenes, of course, that I've worked with people on, but those aren't the best or the only ones. So Alex was like, yeah, here's a scene from a movie. And I don't know if he chose the movie or if he was just scanning scripts. And he was like, sure, that one. But then he's like, actually, I like the lady character better. Okay, great. Who cares? This is not a real audition. It's just for practice. Literally anything that you do has the potential to be good practice. So this is Alex taking charge of his own work in a way that, like, I just want to completely support there. Where he's like, I chose a script, and then you know what? I chose the other character, even though I would never ever audition for that, because I'm practicing, and there's something interesting to me about that practice. Oh, I haven't had a chance to say this in a while, but this is one of those acting teacher secrets that, what are we? We're like 10 minutes in now, so only the like dedicated folks will hear this. Nobody's gonna like pull it out by accident. Almost universally, the experience of giving somebody a scene to practice in an acting class, and I've been doing this for 20 something years, is that regardless of which scene I give them, if they find something to engage with, they'll come back and say, oh, you're so good, Michael Biehn. I see why you chose this script specifically for me. Now I understand why you, in your awesomeness, chose this. And in my head, I'm like, it took me 30 seconds. I was scanning past. I wanted to see that person in that character. It seemed like but when you find something in any story that opens it up for you, the experience for you is, oh, I understand what's in this for me now. It is possible to give yourself that. You just have to navigate so much more uncertainty, because yeah, you could choose literally any script in the world, and that can be overwhelming. So I would advise anybody choosing their own scripts, just go pretty quickly. They go for like, I don't know, maybe that one, not sure. There's 3 of them. Those are good enough. I'm going to choose one of those, right? Get to doing the actual work. Okay. Here's Alex's tape. Alex, you know the drill. We probably will not watch the whole thing, and we certainly won't get a chance to workshop the whole thing. But at the very least, we're going to find some good stuff here. You wanted to work on being curious. He said that he cut off the ad libs at the beginning.
So you grew up around here?
No problem.
How was that? I bet you have a great family.
Nothing special.
You have a lot of brothers and sisters?
What are those brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
Well, I already had.
How many?
If I told
What, 5?
Yeah, so the moment here that I think I like the best is this one.
What are those brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
Well, I already had.
Because I think, Alex, that you fell into the trap here of telling us a story about asking questions. And this is a story about 2 people flirting. And there's a moment in there, about where I'm like, oh, there's some flirting there. Oh, okay, yeah. Now I understand why I care. But if it's just like asking the questions, I'm like, okay, great. It's got a bunch of brothers and sisters. I don't get it. Like, what is the relationship? What is the strong feeling or opinion about this person who you're talking to? And so that's what we're gonna workshop today. Now, it looked like or sounded like Alex was reading with somebody else who was on another device. Highly recommend, right? It means that you've got the world of people available in all sorts of different time zones. You get to read with an actual actor instead of you're somebody who is like doing their best but doesn't have that skill set. and it worked for me. If Alex, if you were reading with recording, then you timed that well enough that I couldn't tell. Okay, so let's actually let me pull up your scene, Alex, and we'll workshop your scene a little bit. Okay.
Yep.
So it is helpful for me looking at this that I am just familiar with the scene. So I watched the movie. But I think that even barring that, even if somebody hadn't watched it, it's like this couple, and they are sitting around at the racetrack, chatting about the family, right? So the thing here that I want to see is like you said that you wanted to work on curiosity, and
Yep.
what I want to see is like why are you curious? It's because you like this person,
Okay.
right? And so sure, if you want to start turn sideways, I really like that. Right, that little like turn out. So you've got the dog track there, but then you've got me, as your eye line. You're looking at me, you're talking to me. Know that if your arms are crossed like they were in this tape, that is physical body language that says the opposite of what you were trying to say emotionally. Right, that's going to say closed off. It can read as like hyper masculine. It can read as angry. It's not going to read typically as like I'm open and really interested in your life, and also like laughing and flirting with you, and and bantering, which is what I think you want for the scene, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now here's the thing. If ad-libbing about the dog, because you said you just cut off the improv at the beginning, and that's just fine. I highly recommend improving into scenes. Hopefully all of you will just get completely sick of me saying this so much that you'll be like, okay, I get it. We will now do it with our scenes always. And then I'll be like, yes, I did my job. Said the same thing 100 times, and eventually everybody was like, fine, stop telling me, we'll just do it. Right, so give me the improv in, but it doesn't have to be about dogs. I just
Okay.
like, ideally it's something that lights up Alex. That's all I want, is I want Alex to be lit up. And so pick a friend of yours, who like, and it doesn't even have to be romantic. It just has to be somebody you really like, and start busting my balls. Just give me a hard time about something that that is absolutely, yes, that. Like, I could start this tape right now. You see Alex's face? Like, he's like, as I'm talking to him, he's like, oh yeah, that. So this grin that I've got right now is much more interesting than what we had at the start of the tape. Okay, so just start a little bit. Just give me a little bit.
I didn't expect our first day to be at a racetrack. I was expecting more of a restaurant.
Good, and then give me the first line.
So you grew up around here.
Yeah, not far from here, South Boston.
How was that?
Pretty boring, I guess. Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. Haha, boring, really, growing up here.
I bet you have a great family.
Nothing special. And you're like, say on me, come on. Like, there's good stuff here.
Come on. You have a lot of brothers and sisters?
Do I have a lot of brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Irish Catholic, what do you think? Yeah, and so take it in. Okay, I got something.
How many?
Exactly. And so that's going to be the beginning of the scene that tells us right away, okay, here's what's going on. There's opinion in it, there's activity in it, and you could take that idea and stretch it out through the whole scene. So the takeaway, hopefully, for folks watching this, is that when you are doing your improv, when you are personalizing, what you want is something that lights you up, and it doesn't have to have anything to do with the scene, as long as that's what you're using to fuel the lines. I think people really get confused about the difference between a personalization and a substitution. Like, that's sort of my acting teacher language for it. Substitution typically means like, well, my scene is with person I'm romantic with, so I have to find somebody who I feel romantic about in that same level or more that also fits that. No, you don't. It's the same way that you don't have to be addicted to something to play a character who's got an addiction. You just need to know what that feeling is like in your body. You just have to be able to empathize with the feeling. You do not have to have had the same experience. Let's workshop Duke's scene.
Michael, just one second. Can I say something real quick?
Of course.
I didn't see the movie at all, and I'm really proud of me noticing that those two characters are in some sort of relationship, like being
Yes.
on the first date. But my main objective was that I have to show the audience that Will is lying about his life.
And that is not your job.
Okay, I see.
That is Will's job in the close-up, and ideally only the audience notices that. Because if you notice it, then you're stupid and it's really hard to root for you.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So very understandable, Alex. You're getting confused between the audience perspective, zoomed out here, seeing everything, and your individual character's perspective, which is like, something is weird here, but maybe it's just that you're shy. Maybe it's just that, something's going on, but I don't see any clue in the script for like, whoa, you're lying and I'm going to be reactive about it.
I see, yeah. So I have to be more specific about the character that I'm playing, like
I
the
think
story
having,
of the character.
yeah, I think having both. I think that your understanding of the scene, should the audience come away from this going like, he's lying? Absolutely. Should your character come away from this, thinking he's lying? I don't see that reflected in the script at all.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Because ultimately in the scene he says he's got 13 brothers, and she's like, oh yeah, name them, and he does, because the character in this movie is like a super genius, and so he's like dot 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 dot, and he lists off all 13 of them. In fact, in the actual scene, in the movie, which is not present here in the script that Alex found, she does it twice in a row perfectly. Right? She's like, oh yeah, do it again. Like she tests him, and he's like, okay, dot 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 dot, same name, same order. Like does again. She's like, okay, great. Like she comes away from the scene trusting him. Now I happen to know that watching this, but I think even reading the script, the character doesn't distrust.
I see. Thank you so much.
Let's take a look at Duke's scene. Now, Duke said that he actively wanted to work on vulnerability, with his scenes. And then look at this. We got like a nice vulnerable scene. He's going up for a dad character. And by the way, Duke, I love the sweater. Oh my gosh. Like, I know that people are like, don't wear white, but like the V-neck with like the blue stripe, I'm just like, put you on a sailing boat, or, just the outfit says character to me in a way that I really like. I assume that when you found it, you were like, yes.
I was. I swear I tried to be quiet.
It wasn't song on you. Did you have to stop again?
Arizona for some Grand Canyon pics. Then I'm off to Bolivia for the salt flats.
Please don't get too close to the reading.
I'll keep my distance. We won't move again until after you graduate, I promise.
I struggle with.
So this is really nice, Duke, and I think I said this to you before we started the video, but it's coming across, easy, honest, supportive dad. You're louder, than your reader is, which is a feedback that you got, here in class a couple of weeks ago that you immediately put into practice.
If you want such a fun school teacher.
It was 1 year.
Maybe you won't be here.
Anything you need, you call me and I'm on the first flight home.
I know.
I mean it. Anything, Phoebe. Even if you think you shouldn't, you call anyway.
I will.
Yeah, so this last moment, I think, is indicative of the thing that I want you to work on with you, Duke, which is that I think that what I'm seeing is that you're not trusting some of these reactions. That especially around the smiling, it happens, and it happens a really authentic way. Like when she's like, don't get too close to the railing, there's like, hey, come on, like the really nice. And then I just see Duke like holding the face a little bit longer, as though somebody at some point has talked to you about like you need to smile more or something, is the way that comes across to me. So the smile at the end was indicative of what looks to me like a very forced smile. It goes from like a very honest, very real micro expression to something that is then purposefully held and starts to look fake in a way that is not necessary. So I want to reflect to you this thing, that I think is normal about human expressions, which is that, they change moment to moment. And that anytime we see you consciously or deliberately trying to do it, that kind of only works on camera if your character is if what you want is the audience to experience you as false. Right. So if you're playing a character who's supposed to be super fake, well, yeah, then you can do that kind of stuff on purpose and be like, ooh, okay, here's a sort of next level way to bring in something that would be bad acting, but in this case, it helps. And in this case, I just think you're gilding the lily a little bit. That maybe you don't trust yourself as this character, and so you feel like you got to like push the warmth a little bit extra. And I don't know if that's the actual experience you were having. That's just the way that it comes across to me. So I'd like you to pick one of these spots in the script where you have like a positive interaction. And then we'll just workshop that one, because I think that what I want to demo to everybody else, because you get it, like I gave you the note, you get it, like it's not actually something that needs workshopping, but I want to demo for everybody else that like just a momentary delight in however that actually occurs for you is enough. And then you move on to the next thing and the next thing. And something that Duke did well here, you saw he had the coffee cup. And yeah, I mean, like maybe he like was a little too careful to like keep it exactly in camera, like in a way that was not strictly speaking necessary, but he gave himself something physically to do, which I think helped with this conversation. I mean, because the way that it looked on the page, and I think the way the conversation read was that like he's packing up, he's getting ready to go. He's not like, I am now going to stop everything and just have a serious conversation with you right now. This is so serious. Like, and so he chose not to do that, by backing out the frame a little bit, bringing in that physicality really worked for me. Let's pin Duke. And which piece of the scene do you want to work, Duke?
Near the end, maybe that last reaction when she says I will, and then I smiled too long.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Let's back it up. The two, I'd travel with you if you weren't such a bad homeschool teacher, because then we'll get a couple of those really nice reactions.
Okay.
Let me just, there we go. Great. I'd travel with you if okay, good. And shake it out, just like, cue me in. Exactly, right? Like you got your coffee cup, we're just like having a talk with somebody who you really know deeply and trust and is easy. And it's like, look, I'd travel with you if you weren't such a bad homeschool teacher.
It was 1 year.
Great. I would say that you're like, again, the reaction is lovely, but you're forcing a laugh a little bit. Right? Like you're not trusting whatever laugh actually comes out of Duke right now. And if you want more laugh, that's good information. That's like, okay, God, then I should find a personalization, something that actually lights me up. Like maybe that thing that she says isn't enough, but think of like a running joke that you have with your partner, like somebody who's very close to you in your life, where it's like, why do you always bring up the thing? Look, it was one time. This is normal to have 7 creams in your coffee. Why do you always tease me about this thing? Right. So that maybe if you personalize it and what I'm saying when I say bad homeschool teacher, and you just feed yourself that for a second, where you're just like, okay, listen, person in my life. Then maybe you get a richer reaction, but it probably won't sound like ha 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 ha. It'll be a Duke reaction to the 7 creams in your coffee tease or whatever that is. And let's try that instead, okay? Because look, I would travel with you if you weren't such a bad homeschool teacher.
It was 1 year.
Good. Yeah, exactly. So maybe that one was like one that he's sick of, but like doesn't have quite enough love in it. Good. Excellent. No, so then pick a different personalization for it. So something that is sillier, or like not like that you don't feel attacked by. Where it's more like, why are you still hung up on this ridiculous? Like, you're ridiculous. I'd travel with you if you weren't such a bad homeschool teacher. Just bad.
It was 1 year.
Yeah, a very long year. It was long.
It was 1 year.
Good. And that's my line, a very long year. And then we laugh about it and you say, look, anything you need. And so just jump right into the line, anything you need, just as a matter of fact as possible.
Okay. You want to do it again?
Sure.
Okay.
I would travel with you if you weren't such a bad homeschool teacher.
It was 1 year.
It was a really long year.
Anything you need, you call me when I'm on the first flight home.
I know, you know, and I'm trying to back, you know, pass off, and you like, get my attention.
I mean it. Anything, Phoebe. Even if you think you shouldn't, you call me.
Oh, I will. Good. You know, and I think that is a more appropriate reaction to your daughter being, you know, saying what she thinks you want to hear, but you knowing that something is going on she's not talking to you about. Right? That's a more appropriate reaction, you know, than the forced smile that you did at the end of the last one. You know, and it's deeper. Do you get this idea about personalization now?
Yes.
Yes, right. And it's not mechanical. Like, that's the thing, is that it really is an art, because it's you have to explore. You can't know in advance which one's going to light you up. You got to get there and be like, yeah, no, for whatever, imagining that one didn't do the trick. Oh, but that one, I could look at Christina's face, I could look at Shoku's face, and like hear this line, but I'm remembering what it feels like for, you know, my son to tease me about making a mess in the kitchen, and like, oh, it just bothers me. Okay, but I love you, but also God. You know, right, and you get a specific Michael Bean reaction, as opposed to, you know, the kind of more generic reaction on the page. Really nice, dude. Thanks for doing that. How are we doing? Okay. We've got the couple of scenes, you know, are shorter, and so, you know, with but let's move into to working on. Dia, do you have your video ready to go? Kim is working on. Okay, not showing up on Zoom yet. Okay, that's Dia. You let me know when you're ready to go, and we'll keep rocking through these other folks. Incidentally, and I forgot to say this after Alta's scene, but one thing that you can do in the chat window is throw in something specific that stood out for you, or that you liked about Duke's work. Throw in something specific that you liked about the work of the person you just saw. You know, so not just like Duke is amazing, but, you know, like I'm seeing in here, like, man, love the sweater. You know, this moment, you know, that reaction, like, here's something that stood out for me personally, right? You don't need to be an acting teacher. You just need to be an audience and say, hey, here's what stood out for me. That's always helpful for actors. You know, I think, and, you know, and when I'm teaching classes these days, I do it after every single scene. I'm like, hey, everybody, quickly tell me a specific thing that stood out. And people always want to go like, it was good, which just kind of like, opts you out of, you know, the specificity, but the specificity also helps you, knowing you're going to be asked that, or can help keep you focused while you're watching the scene as well. Let's look at Christina's scene. So Christina's, you know, wanted to work on a range of emotions. You know, and so I gave her a scene where she's like being creeped out by her new stepbrother. It's like, the scene's like kind of terrible, but it's also really short and funny, you know, and you'll see, you know, that once again, she did a great job with her tape. You know, this time, however, we have some adjustments that we can make, I think, that are going to help comedy-wise. So here's the tape.
Are you getting nervous? Your chest appears to be heaving.
Connect 4 perv.
Pretty sneaky, sis.
What are you doing?
I'm lost. So I'm removing an article of clothing. I could start with the past.
Great, like, look at that reaction. You know, so the reactions don't seem forced. It's comedy, so it's okay for the reactions to be, you know, bigger, clearer, more significant, as long as they don't seem forced to an audience. This doesn't seem forced to me. It's set up well. You know, you can maybe back out the frame, give yourself just like a smidge more. This is, you know, quite a tight medium close-up, or even this is even, you know, verging on a close-up, Christina. So I don't know if you got space to push back just a little bit so we can get a little more of your body, but, you know, that's being pretty nitpicky. She's got light in her eyes. She's louder than her reader. You know, all the technical stuff we've been talking about the last few weeks, you know, she's put to work here. My main thing that I want to workshop with you here is that it's comedy, and you just need to pick up the pace, right? Their pacing, you and your reader, you know, would be appropriate if this was supposed to be one of those like funny, very slow indie projects where it's like, it's funny, but It's also just kind of weird and creepy, and it's supposed to sneak up on you. And maybe that's the style you thought you were in, but I'd love to workshop it as though this is like a faster comedies, so that everybody can see what difference it makes if we're changing the pacing on that. Now, if you all want to see Christina nice and big, then you got to pin her. I don't want to spotlight her because I want her to still be able to look at me, because if I spotlight her, then she's got to look at her own face while also acting, and she can do that, but but let's not make her. Okay. Christina, I think we can just workshop this whole scene, because it's a nice short one. There's a couple of things going on here. There's the fact that you were trapped on this horrible road trip with your brother, or with your stepbrother, and then there's like how creepy he's being, and so at the beginning, just give me a like, I can't believe, so I want you, to give me a different eye line, right? So honestly, I would set the scene up so you can do it sitting down, because you're trapped in the back of a camper, but sometimes when you bring it up on its feet, then it gets more energy. So, you got both options. So we're just going to do it standing where you are right now. Give me the other eye line for like out the front window and where the parents are, because the dad has a line later, and so you've got that eye line. And just look back, and then look back at me, and look at the game, and I've just like made like, oh yeah, look at me winning the game. I'm just trying to like make sexy faces at you, and you're just like, ew, so yucky, oh god. And then and then look out the front window like, oh god, when's this going to be over? Don't try and realize the chest heaving. I love that you tried to bring that in there, but it seemed so deliberate, that it is information and useful information, but he's being so creepy here that I think it would honestly be better for that opening moment to not be anything like what he's talking about, just be a sigh, just to be like, like, oh God, exactly, get me out of here. Turn away, look out the window. Give me the first line. No, give me the sigh first. Oh, and actually, just improv in. Just give me one line about how horrible it is to be trapped with this pervy dude.
I cannot stand him. Like, why is he in here with me?
Just give me a big sigh, look out the window. Are you getting nervous? Your chest appears to be heaving.
Connect 4, perv.
Pretty sneaky, sis. Drop your eyes right away. What? Quick, get me the line.
What are you doing?
I lost, so I'm removing an article of clothing. I could start with the pants and then like get in there to start to say something. Hey, we're strapping anchor at the next campsite. Mitchell, why is your son's shirt off? Yeah, and that's the scene. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm. So it's like just faster pace and like just kind of like being like right to the point, right?
It's really the space in between the lines. So the lines themselves don't come faster, but the pacing in between them is shorter, and that's really signature for comedy because my understanding, and I haven't written professional comedy, but I have talked to several comedy writers, and I've had multiple folks. There's a teacher at my school who is one of the leads on one of these like very silly comedy shows for about 8 years. So I've had a lot of conversations with these folks, is that they're sort of setting up for the laugh, right? So it's like you take, I had a teacher talk about it as a tennis match, right? You go, ta, 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 and then somebody scores a point, and you're basically setting the audience up to have the laugh. Whereas if you go, ta, 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 like it works, but it's a very different style. Like I said, it's that like slow paced kind of indie style, which way more about the creepiness than it is about, setting this up for Mitchell to be ridiculous. And it's one of the reasons that style is right up there on my list. When we're talking about like what goes into a script, and so just a quick reminder for everybody else, one of those things again that's worth looking at each time: story, style, relationships, changes, and objective. So here, style, is it make or break? Not necessarily. I don't think it makes. It's like changing the style, would be make or break. But is it a way to find just like a little more juice in this, or play with it? If this was the only scene you had, you even could like be bold and kind of break the rules and do 2 takes of the scene, if you weren't sure, if you're like, is it indie or is it fast, right? You could potentially give them both, because how much of their time are you really wasting? 15 seconds, like they can get over it. As long as both are good and both are different, that is a risk that certainly for myself as an actor, I sometimes take.
I'm gonna do that. I felt like doing that with you, and I was like, I don't know. He has a workshop live.
Fun. Well, good. Like break the rules, especially if it's 15 seconds.
Okay.
Right? Like I mean, Alex sent me 2 minutes of scene. I watched the whole thing, but I'm not gonna. I don't have to show all of it in class. I can still review it, and it's still excellent practice for you.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Good. Let's look at Shoku's scene and Danielle's, and then hopefully Dia's tape video will be working by then. So I gave the Shoku a script from, let me see if I can find it for you and show you. Here we go. So this is from a TV movie. She's the cafeteria lady, right? Cafeteria lady, as far as I know, just shows up in this one scene. What's the meat selection today, Mrs. Anderson? Mock suey, in quotations, in brown sauce with crunchy noodles. Yum, I can't wait. Anything with mock in the name. What's it really made of? Honey, I have no idea. Even better, I love a surprise. At her table, Laura sits alone dissecting her food on her lunch tray, right? So it's it also says that she's precocious, adorable, in disguise, wearing her mother's blonde wig, oversized sunglasses, and gloves. She thinks she's being so cool, everyone knows it's her. So it's fun. She's sort of setting up, and the cafeteria lady, in this case, is like almost a stereotype, like almost this caricature of like, I'm smoking a cigarette and I don't know, and so they're not going to want that. Like, they're not going to want like the full stereotype. We can imagine that if Shoku's being asked to audition for this, they're like, no, we want like cafeteria lady to be a real person. It also is clearly supposed to be a funny moment. Right. So that's the balance that we're going to strike in Shoku when we workshop the scene. We're going to see if we can keep you as you and bring in more of the comedy, and probably just by like upping how interesting or like your opinions about things out here, so that you have more reaction, right? Or the more to react to. That's my guess. Here is Shoku's take for this one.
What's the meat selection today, Mrs. Anderson?
Maxwell in brown sauce with crunchy noodles.
Yum, I can't wait. I love anything with mock in the name.
So what's it made of? Honey, I have no idea.
Even better, I love a surprise.
Okay, so I would say that looking at the script, the idea is that whatever is being served at lunch is gross. And that your character is certainly written as like not really caring about the fact that it's gross. I think that having 4 seconds of silence at the start of your tape where there's no activity, no reactions, nothing happening, that's a real mistake in terms of setting up a tape. Right. So, and I think it was 4 full seconds here, right? So her shoulders are facing the camera, her head's facing the camera, but her eyes are slightly off. So already there's that little, sort of practical mistake, Shoku, of like, I would say, make sure that your body is facing whoever you're talking to, or that your body is facing your activity, and then look over at the person you're talking to. But this here says to me, actor, right away. And then there's.
What's the meat?
Okay, 3 seconds, of where there's silence and there's no reaction. So that's the easiest change that we can make in terms of improving this. This is just give you activity. And I would say like just have you glopping the disgusting food, would be like the easiest thing to do. Although, if we played with it, I'm sure we could find something that you thought was like fun, specific, personal.
Today, Mrs. Anderson.
And then my suggestion is that we start with the physical activity of like you dealing with the food, and then looking over and just like looking the girl up and down. Her outfit, she's wearing the wig, she's wearing the like I'm a spy, I'm wearing my mom's clothes outfit. And then where we keep the Shoku is we don't go into like cafeteria lady. We keep you just like being you with her. We're like, this is what it is. I don't know. Like, look, it's food, it's here, you eat it or don't, that's your choice. But like opinion about the person you're talking to, like physical activity. If we wanted to play with it, like we were looking for a comedic moment and we didn't want to make you do anything like verbally or with the character, I think that like we might even be able to like potentially like find it with you, like like doing something disgusting, at the beginning, like we can play with that for one of our takes if we were doing multiple takes and then be like, oh no, that's too far. Like it's too far for you to like scratch your head and then like shake off bits of dandruff into the mock suey, but like we could play with that, right? Because it doesn't require you to do anything as an actor except make that choice beforehand, where it's like, what's something kind of yucky that I could do that supports the fact that the food is gross? Because like that's the scene that you're in, is that like she's being charming, you are just doing your job, the food is supposed to be yucky. So let's set up and just workshop the scene. Like here's another option. What if we decide that that Shoku also thinks that the food is gross, right? Maybe that's the thing. Shoku, you're gonna have to unmute yourself. Right. So give yourself an eye line, right? So turn your body to face away from me slightly, just not a lot, exactly. Nope, too far. There you go. Good. Right there. Now give yourself an eye line that's down about waist level, and like pick something gross out of the food as though you're just like, ew, a hair, but all at waist level. Don't show me, because right now I'm seeing invisible stuff in your hands. I don't want to see that. Waist level, all the way down by your waist. Right? And just give me the ugh, before that, and then let's see if that does the trick. Stand by and action. No, cut, smaller, just down by your waist, just find a hair, just make a little ugh and flick it, and then I'm going to talk to you. Stand by, look down at your waist, where you're dealing with the noodles, and action. Hey, what's the meat selection today, Mrs. Anderson? Look me up and down, see my outfit. Talk to me.
Max way in brown sauce with crunchy noodles.
Yum, I can't wait. Love anything with mock in the name. Hey, what's it really made of? And then remember.
I have no idea.
And then go back to looking at the yucky stuff, and like sort of pick up a noodle, noodle, other side of the camera. Remember, it's all on the other side of the camera. You got two things. You got the girl on one side of the camera, you got the noodles on the other side. So there's only two eye lines. Great, Shoku, thank you so much for being willing to workshop with me. This thing that you just saw happen to Shoku, anybody who's watching, very, very normal. Basically, if you're sitting at home watching, you're like, it's only two things. How could you possibly get confused? Once it's you, you're like, I've got to think about what to say, where to stand. Literally everything I'm dealing with is imaginary. Where do you want it? Oh my God. And so my suggestion when you are workshopping is that you consolidate into two eye lines. As much as possible, right? So it's like the one eye line, which is the person I'm talking to the most. They're going to be right here beside the camera, and that's where I'm going to put my reader. And sometimes I'll take three different people and boom, I'll put them all there. And then the one person I have the strongest other opinion of, I'll be like, Mom, shut up. And then I'll go back to like talking to Shoku over here. No disrespect to my actual mom. Right, so put the person I have the strong opinion about over there. Or if there's like a quick moment of like, yeah, I'm coming. Right, so I can put somebody way off here just for a second, but like you're gonna get a lot of my ear in that moment. So I definitely don't want to stay there. I don't want to stay in profile. And I want a real person to look at for as much of the scene as possible. Does that make sense, Shoku? So for your next tape, I'm gonna keep sending you these short ones. I really want to see some kind of a live opinion in the first 4 seconds. I want you to improv that moment before and then cut that off. Even if you had just sent this tape and just gotten rid of those 3 seconds of nothing, that would have been better. Don't ever give me you not doing acting, not being in the world, just waiting for something to happen, because otherwise I've made a decision about your skill as an actor before you even open your mouth. Right? I'm like, oh, this person is an actor and they're just waiting. Oh, okay, this person is is new.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In the first 5 seconds, people are making their assessment. and then the maybe watch another 15 seconds to 2 minutes to either confirm or contradict their initial assessment. But I think people's initial assessments come up pretty fast.
Yeah. For me, it's a little bit hard to combine like my emotion and like reading the line and, because it's my first time.
Totally. And so that's why I'm saying right
with-
now, put the focus on telling the story and disobligate yourself from feeling as much as possible. Right. So right now, if we've got I really meant what I said, in week 1, which is that there are times in training where it makes sense to focus on either believability or expressiveness. And yes, we want to bring them together. And of course, as an actor, as an artist, you generally are going to be more excited about expressiveness because it's the part that's more fun. But in terms of helping you be ready to audition for film and TV, choose believability. Right. So in this one, that would mean rehearsing dealing with the activity and not worrying about the feeling at all. Just like, okay, I'm just dealing with the noodles. I'm saying, like I'm talking to you, I'm doing the lines, I'm dealing with the noodles. And then we could have added the feeling in the workshopping it. I'd love to get to that point with our tape. So it's like, yes, everything about this works. It's totally believable. Now let's add feeling. It's a great spot to be in class, I think. But I hear you. It's a lot to juggle all at once. I don't want you to be overwhelmed.
Oh,
And I really appreciate you being willing to be vulnerable, because a lot of the people watching tapes like this, at least historically, are people who have never done this before, who are in the spot that you are, right?
Yeah.
Most of the other folks who are joining us have done this, and so you letting us in on this and just saying like, it's a lot and it feels like a lot, and be willing to be good-natured about that. I think that is you supporting anybody else who is on that journey as well. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Thank you for your support.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I learned a lot.
Good. Well, we're just going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Danielle, I've taken a little bit of too much time, and so I want to make sure we watch and review Dia's tape, even though I'm not going to be able to workshop with her because I haven't done that with her the last like 3 classes. That might mean that we don't get to your tape until next week. But if that's the case, then I will email you notes, and then you can try us another take of the tape for us. Okay.
Cool.
Let's take a look at Dia's tape. So this is something that Dia auditioned for. So you can see,
I hope these seats.
right eye light. She's set up. There's a little bit of wider medium close up because she wanted to move into it. We can see the bottom of her backdrop. Does that matter? I don't think so. Notice that your eyes will likely continue to be drawn to the shiny thing, that is here at her, like the necklace, very, very normal, for a tape, is to have that take focus, whatever the shiny thing is, like, so, I mean, sometimes, Dia goes out for like these sort of, fancy or, ladies, or this character is supposed to, seem like just sort of over the top, fussy. So maybe like shiny jewelry is one of those, like, yes, it's breaking the rules, but it's a good idea. That's just like physically, technically the one thing, that is going to be an issue for me, I think.
Excuse me, can you be careful with my bag? It's worth more than your year's salary.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure. It's a little dirty, no?
It seems like these lollies have been left on the trolley for too long.
Ew, Papa.
Champagne?
Okay, so Dia, the way that you set up the scene, and I'm curious, and you can put in the chat window, were you invited to improv, like to add improv to the scene? Because you got a callback for this 2 days ago. Yeah, woohoo! Woo! Ah, that's so good. I love reviewing the tapes you've got a call back for. So yeah, they didn't write up about her much, said bring to myself, went for it. Yes, right. So this is a real risk off the top. Like Dia really added multiple lines. Like the first 30 seconds of this, almost 30 seconds of the scene, that's not in the script. That's like she fully added that, and then I suppose watched the tape and was like, actually, I want to include this improv. Look at this. She says, broke rules big time. Love it. Such a great snob. Yes, exactly. That you brought the snob to this. In terms technically for the tape, Dia, maybe I should just like stay on the tape so I can show you. If we were coaching it, my adjustments would be things like pick up the pace in the middle a little bit. I think that I love that you took your time with the reactions to each of these orange juices. I think that you could have that we probably could have tightened that up. Sounds to me like Dia is reading with herself. Right? So talking about breaking the rules, like she's also reading with a recording of herself. Still worked. She got a call back. That doesn't have to be perfect. You're coming to me so I can say here's all of the things that you can do that might make this more live, that might make it more technically interesting. What a fantastic example of it does not have to be perfect for you to get a callback. It does not have to be perfect for you to get a tape, for you to book the role. It just doesn't. It would be interesting, to see what happened. What would the impression be if the scene starts here, right?
It seems like these lollies have been left on the trolley for too long.
Right, I think we still get the snob in this reaction. Also, I would say that for me watching it, and this is just visual, this is not the most important thing because your face is doing the work, your acting is doing the work. But the choice to use. I don't know what that is, even a remote for something as though it's a cell phone. If you're going to do that, I would say keep it at waist level, right? Or totally makes perfect sense for her to be engaged in a cell phone, but I would say keep it off camera. And so if we were workshopping this today, it would be one of those things where I would I just play with tightening up some of the timing in the middle. Because it is a comedy. Yeah, pacing, exactly. And that's great. That's exactly what you said you wanted to work on. So if you, I will be, I hope that we can have audio, video from you for next time so you can tell us how the callback went and what was alive and interesting, what they workshop with you, if you get any feedback on it. Do you have any questions for me before I move on?
Firstly, I just want to say sorry to everyone. I'm really trying. I think my laptop's really old, so I'm going to just hop on my phone next time. Secondly, this was the first tape that I just kind of went for abandon, and it kind of just worked in a lucky stroke, I guess. So I'm going to be retaping it because they just want me to do the same thing and bring my character. So my question to you would be, when they say bring your character and improv, what does that mean, basically?
They asked you to do more improv?
So for the callback, they sent two scenes, this and another one, and they said they liked what I had done with it and keep it in that space and bring your own interpretation, basically.
Oh, great. Yeah, I think that gives you a lot of permission to play with reactions. My interpretation of that is that your abandon for the scene is in the right place, and you don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? Particularly for a callback, it means, look, we saw something we liked and we want to see more of that. So the bring yourself, they're probably explicitly referencing what they saw in your strong opinions of things in the improv in the first 30 seconds, and throughout the scene.
The other question I had was the character. I think I sent it to you. They had only written 5 lines. I shouldn't be saying this, but the only question I had is, does it mean that they didn't write the character or flesh her out and just expected the actor to? I don't know if I should be saying that, but
no, I think that that's a very real possibility. That this is important but supporting character, and so most of their focus is on the main arc of the character. And then they were like, and like, here's our idea for the character, here's sort of the stub, but then we want somebody to bring it to life, as themselves. And that's a gift. I actually find it more challenging when you get the opposite, when you get like an endless paragraph that contains opposite qualities, where it's like, she's kind except when she's mean, and she's generous except when she's thrifty. And it's like, okay, so it's just a real person who's like different people to different ways in different places. Like, this is not helpful.
Do you find that happens more in comedy parts, where they expect like improv ad lib and not in dramatic? And that's the last thing I'm going to say.
Yes, I definitely think that if you're being invited to ad lib, that is more likely to happen either in drama or either in comedy or in like certain indie, directors, creators. You will like to do that just as part of their process, but otherwise it's almost all comedy. And I would say, unless they've explicitly said like, yes, do lots of ad libbing, it's still worth thinking about pacing. I would say that as you explore it, do a bunch of ad-libbing to help you get the big reactions, because that'll really help bring it to life. And it really did here. And then when you're taping it, you probably don't need all of the improv, right? Like this was a 2-page scene, and your tape was 4.5 minutes long. And for a comedy, like, not knowing that you'd gotten the callback, I was prepared to say like, I'm not, like, I would tighten that up like quite a bit. And here's the thing, I might be wrong in this situation. In this situation, they watched 4.5 minutes, they wanted to see her again. My opinion is not the be all end all here. We can't guess what producers are thinking. They liked what they saw, that's what matters. Right, so, but I would say separate the exploring and the taping of it. So explore it. When you explore it, totally indulge. Make up the lines, talk things out, overreact to things, and then see how that informs it, when you sort of bring that into the somewhat tighter container of the script. Maybe that makes what is written more alive, and brings your ad libs kind of into that comedic pacing. The other thing when you're looking at 2 different scenes is, what are you showing that's slightly different about the character in each scene? Just so that that's something we haven't talked about here in class yet, but is worth thinking about when you've got multiple scenes. Is what's important here, and how is that reflected in my feelings or opinions about the things that I'm looking at? So that there's like both the through line of, this is the way my character orients the world, but here we're seeing slightly different sides of them, or different opinions in each scene. Does it help?
Yeah, definitely. It's something I'm going to explore in the next couple of days. So yeah.
Okay, great. Danielle, I know that we've run a few minutes over. I'm just going to show you the very open clip here of.
Those are some creative drawings, Alice. Did your parents help you? Well, they're very lovely.
Good. And so Danielle's got something particularly challenging here. I just wanted to very quickly show you all that, because so that you can see for reference, for the tape that she may do for us in the next couple of weeks. She said that she's, on set working on something, in New York, for the next couple of weeks. Did I get that right? Where are we?
Yeah.
NYC. But maybe she'll do a tape for us. First, in that opening frame, I'm not seeing doctor, not at all. And like a colored shirt will do a lot of the work for you there. Like if you got a pair of glasses with the lenses poked out, great. But like if you're a psychiatrist interviewing somebody, like you did all the work to set up your backdrop for this, like throwing on something, a blazer or a collared shirt, or like your wardrobe better than I do, but something that says doctor, sort of right.
Got it. That makes sense.
That'll do it. I would say sit down, give yourself a clipboard, because one of the things that's really tricky here is we've got to see in you that what she's doing, and she's not reacting. She doesn't say anything. In the film, they can cut to her face going, I'm not going to tell you anything. But in the audition, we need a much clearer, much more distinct reaction from you. with each of those things, and one of the easiest ways to do this is to give yourself activity. So I would say easy, like the low hanging fruit with this is give yourself a clipboard, so that you're like, hi, I'm sitting down. I'm like, I look like a doctor. I've got my pen and my clipboard. I'm gonna find your name. So hi, I've got your drawings right here. Like, this is interesting. This is interesting. Okay, I'm gonna take a note somewhere in there. But I would like you to play with getting more specific about those reactions, because it reads as actory off the top with the pacing. Like, it reads as like taking a little pause, going to the next thing, taking a little pause, going to the next thing. And it's very tricky to do that. Like, nothing is happening over here, but I'm going to react as though it has. But I think it's a good challenge.
Mhm.
All right. That is a little bit more acting class than you were ready preparing for today, so we better wrap up. Folks, do you have any final questions or comments that you want to throw at me, either to get quick answers for now or that I can think about for next time? Alex.
So my question is how to move the story forward as a supporting role if your character's story is not the main idea of the script.
Right, and this is in specific reference to your scene from today.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with the scene from today, you could have done that just by challenging him.
Okay.
Right, this like, come on, like there's something here, there's something here. Oh, okay, you're right, I'm convinced. But the audience is like, whoa, wait, we know he's lying. I think that sometimes we have enough information, to make those decisions, but a lot of the times we don't. A lot of the times you just got to go, okay, in this scene, like, what is my strong feeling or opinion? How does it change? And if sometimes you've got enough information about the whole story that you can zoom out and see that. In this case, this was a published project, but nobody who auditioned for a 2-page supporting role in Good Will Hunting is going to be allowed access to the whole script, because they're going to be keeping that hush hush at the time, except for the people who've already booked big roles. Does that make sense? So you probably, in that situation, literally don't have enough information to answer that question. I'm not saying it's not useful at all to think about. I'm saying it's like 5% useful, and probably you want to keep your focus on the 95%, which is feeling your opinion, objective, how do things change, that especially for 2 pages, if that's all you show up for, that's one of those like little edges of something that might give you a little extra, or help guide your choices. But it's also a guessing game, that you very, very rarely have enough information to win.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So to me, that sounds like you psyching yourself out by giving yourself an impossible challenge. Well, how do I do all of the good acting things and the director's job for them? It's like, I'm not saying like, sure, great, do that, but like, this is where you're probably going to get the most mileage.
I see. Thank you.
If we had more time, or if we're if you were in like proper 2-hour class, this is where I would say takeaways and shout outs. So like, what are you taking away for yourself from today's class? And so just think about that, but I'm going to let you off the hook now. And next time I'll remember to ask you to throw it in the chat window. It's like, what your takeaway for yourself is. I am Michael Bean, and this was your class for myfreeactingclass.com. If you're like, oh, I would like to take one of those longer classes with Michael Bean, does he teach us? Yes, I do. Just send me an email. info@myfreeactingclass.com will come to me. There's lots of ways to find me online, and show up for these lessons to watch them in person or watch them on our YouTube channel. You can find all those links at myfreeactingclass.com. Again, thanks for the work, everybody. Look forward to seeing you next week. Ciao.